first case I ever tried. There's a guy sitting on the front row, and he's just, every time I'm talking, he's nodding. I'm like, this guy loves me. He's going to be the foreperson. We're going to get a great verdict. We did get a verdict, and it was okay. But he was the only one, turns out, he was the only one on the jury that wanted to give my lady nothing. So apparently every time something came out of my mouth, he was going, I don't know what words you're saying. So the more that you do it, the less you know, and that's the safe bet.
That's right.
Right?
That's funny.
As soon as you think you know, and as soon as you think you can read people, because everybody thinks they know how they read people, and if I don't like you, I don't think other people are going to like you. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Everybody, because I tell clients that, I say, one of the reasons when you get when you're deposed, when you have a deposition, they're looking to see whether you're a likable person.
Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I, Tom Foster, talk with legal leaders about, yes, you guessed it, marketing mindset and the growth of law firm businesses. This episode is brought to you by Foster Web Marketing. Since the internet was born, Foster has been the premier provider of customized websites, SEO, video, and strategic solutions for elite law firms. Our unparalleled web technology and systems set the gold standard in the industry, catering exclusively to a discerning clientele who demand the best. Partner with Foster Web Marketing to boost your mobile marketing and reach clients directly on their devices, maximizing engagement and driving conversions in our fast-paced digital world. Visit Foster Web Marketing to discover how you can help you achieve your most ambitious goals and solidify your position at the forefront of your field. Now, today, my guest is my friend and longtime client, personal injury lawyer, Jason Schultz, out of Atlanta, Georgia, right? Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta. I moved down to the south side, Peachtree City, which is a little suburb of Atlanta. And, to be closer to the house and not have to commute so much. So
yeah, but like Jason, I've known Jason for years and years and years, and I wanted to do this, get him on here because Jason is just the greatest guy. He's one of our best clients because he's such a great person. He's such a good human being. So I wanted to get him on here and introduce him to everybody because, he can be an inspiration. This is what the podcast is about. Like, I want you guys to be inspired by these people. And Jason is somebody that you should be inspired by. Tell me exactly what you do right now.
I am a small firm, intentionally. And we like to have not a ton of clients, and we're very
selective.
Very selective, and I learned that through you all and Ben Glass and whatever. That's how I was introduced to you.
Yeah.
17 years ago. No, maybe it was 15 years ago. Something. It was a long time ago.
A long time ago, man.
And I learned a lot. I was somebody that thought that I knew everything, right? I am always the smartest person that walks into the room until I open my mouth.
Okay, so you've set up your business, your practice the way you want it. So, tell me a little bit about why you wanted to get into law in the first place. What drove you to get into law?
Okay, well, my great grandfather was the Northern District of Ohio federal prosecutor, and I used to hear stories about him and my grandmother, and he was kind of on the edge of prosecuting the Red Scare back in the early 1900s. And my grandmother used to tell us stories about bombs, and she couldn't open mail and all this other stuff, and it was fascinating to me. My dad was a criminal defense lawyer. Yep. And he just was brilliant and loved the law and just hated the system, the way that it was, that if anybody exercised their right to a trial by jury, they were usually punished more severely than they would be if they entered a plea. And he was somebody that just fought against the machine. And, you know, sometimes he won, sometimes he lost, but he definitely was in there with his, 8-ounce gloves, not the 16-ounce,
Right.
that in the Tyson fight here recently.
Right.
So I just followed in the footsteps of the ones that came before me. And, I did step off into a different direction because I had gotten into a wreck with my mom's car when I was in high school. And it's a long story, and it's humorous, but not very,
Well, tell it.
No, I can't tell that story. One story I can't tell. Privately, I'll tell you the story and you'll get a kick out of it. But, I got sued, and my mom got sued, and it was down in Florida. And the lawyer just thought, the way that it went down and how I handled myself, he's like, man, I tell you what, this is your thing. This is what you do, And at that point, I'd already knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I went to law school, and then I had.
How old were you?
When I got in that wreck, 17.
Oh, okay.
I started out when I was 17. I'm one of the few people that, I'm 58 years old, and I'm actually doing something that I thought I was going to be doing when I was 17 years old. And, fortunately, I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you were inspired by your dad, your father, that was this great lawyer that fight for the people, right? Like fight for the people. That's really what it is. And not you do that, right?
I do. I always said that my shoulders were not broad enough to do the criminal defense stuff because you have to have pretty broad shoulders, right? Everybody's entitled to a defense, even the worst of the worst. And that's the way he looked at it. And a lot of people just can't understand that mindset, but you're defending the Constitution, in other words. So he was a true believer,
Yeah. So tell me, what was one of your most challenging cases?
The challenging ones are the ones, obviously, that you learn from the most, and the ones that you lose.
Yeah.
And I can remember one distinctly. I didn't actually lose it. I got a verdict for my client, but it was inadequate, to say the least. And the whole case, it was a rear end case, and the guy had a herniated disc, but he didn't have surgery. And it was the I need surgery case, which is not as good as the I had surgery case. And I remember him very well. I called my client Fast Eddie because he was a little fast, a little loose. But the thing was, it was funny, was the whole case I kept saying, hey, I'm telling you, I am going to go through you like, poop going through the proverbial goose to the other side. And we were sitting in front of a judge, and I was really feeling myself. We were in this settlement conference, and the judge told the defense lawyer and the adjuster that was there, said, Mr. Schultz tried a case in front of me 30 days ago. And I am telling you, he is going to eat your expert alive and blah, 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 blah. And I'm telling you, I felt so good about myself. I said, they're going to definitely pay me now. And so I go into trial, and they're offering me the policy limits. And I'm saying, no, we're not accepting the policy limits. Okay. Because I had already spent all the money, I did all the time. And I said, I am going to go through you like poop going through a goose. Because I had felt myself so much, patting myself on the back, really up there, and tried a great case. And the lawyer on the other side said that when it was all done and finished and done, he said, you kicked my butt. You did an excellent job. You're going to get. And I think I asked for $200,000 or something. Okay. He said, you're going to get it. He said, we're in trouble. So 4 hours later, I went back to the office. I get a call. The verdict's there. I was a hop, skip, and a jump from the courthouse. Got back over to the courthouse. Verdict was the medical bills, $14,932 or something. And I was like, what in the world? 2 weeks later, the guy tries a case where defense lawyers frequently will sit there and tell you stories about everybody does personal injury, right? You'll see the advertising. Everybody does personal injury. I do bankruptcy, divorce, and personal injury. Right. So they get a case. They have no idea what they're doing. They go in. They're like lambs to slaughter at trial. And he's telling me a story how this lawyer has no idea what's about to befall him in a county that's pretty conservative. anyway, tries the case. The lawyer the defense lawyer that I just tried this case with said, hey, this is going to be a defense verdict. And he goes, and the guy gets a verdict for like, I don't know, $75,000. And he can't believe it because he had all this impeachment material on the plaintiff and everything. And the plaintiff's lawyer didn't even know what he was doing and muddled his way through it. And so he calls me up on the phone. He said, Jason, I just have to tell you this. I know you feel really bad about that verdict that you got the other day, but I'm telling you, none of it makes any sense. It doesn't, there's no rhyme or reason to it. And so the more that you do it, the more that you understand it. And then I advise my clients and I tell them stories about my successes, because there's plenty of those. And I also tell them about the failures. And a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with, it's the 12 people in that box. And guess what? We don't get to pick them. We just get to deselect them. Right?
Right. You get what you get. You get what you get, and you do your best to give them a pitch. And if you don't, for whatever reason, are not able to convince them, to pay the big bucks, right?
Oh yeah, and it's challenging and it's fun, and obviously I love helping people, and I love helping good people and people that are deserving.
Right.
Very frequently in the personal injury world, nobody really gets fairly compensated. And I tell people up front, I'm like, because nobody can really, really step in your shoes. We can do the best that we can to try to get people to come into your world. But a lot of people that are sitting on the jury are like, look, my back hurts every day. Nobody's paying me. And, it's that kind of thing that you have to understand. And we as lawyers haven't done a great job either of how we advertise, right? Turn your wreck into a check. It's painful. It's painful. And I try to separate myself from those people.
I haven't seen that. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, you see, there's all different kinds of jingles, and it's okay to get a jingle because obviously you could be on front of somebody's mind. But Tom, you didn't even ask me this question, but I'm gonna delve into this.
Yeah.
How that I got to you, okay, right? I was practicing law, and I'm saying, you know what? Let me tell you something. I have a unique look, at least. I have curly hair. People are going to remember me. I know what I'm doing, and I'm good at what I do, and people respect me, and that's all I have to be is be a good lawyer.
That's right.
And I'm telling you, it worked for a little while. And then what happened was, what I saw was my business as I was looking back. You know how you look at gross numbers and you start looking and you're like, it was up here and it kept going up and up and up. And I'm like, man, I'm patting myself on the back like I did on that, how good I did the jury trial before. And, and I just let it go. All I had on the internet was basically a business card that was on the internet, right? Not very good. So what I did, I looked and my income came down and then kind of flatlined. And I'm like, hold on a second. I thought it was just supposed to keep going up.
Right.
And I think I ran out of jet fuel. And so I didn't make it through the atmosphere or whatever. And I was coming back down. And that's when I really started saying, I've got to do something different, right? And so then with Great Legal Marketing, and then I found you, and then I ended up getting myself a unique selling proposition that, I came up with this all on my own. It's probably the only original thought I've had my entire life, because we as lawyers just crib from everybody. It's on my website, okay? And it says, small enough to care, experienced enough to win.
I love it.
Because I do differentiate myself through my smallness, which is crazy, because you got the firms that are like, we're the biggest in the country. You
got Morgan & Morgan stomping everywhere, right?
Correct. And that's okay. That's okay, and it's just, for me, there are enough people out here that say, I don't want to be like the sausage
Right.
It's coming out of there because, in legislation and everything else, people say you don't want to see how a bill gets passed because it's like watching sausage be made, which is pretty disgusting, right? Same thing about what goes in. Everything kind of goes into the big thing in the big firms, and you get spit out, and it all kind of looks the same. For me, I just wanted to do something different and something more that I could control. I've had friends that have had bigger law firms, and they say that, how's your day to day? And they say, I don't know whether this is running me or I'm running it.
Right.
It becomes, and I just decided years ago that I wasn't going to do that. I had a young family. I wanted to go coach them in baseball and football and basketball
right. Yeah,
and all that stuff. And really just spend time with my family and have more control over my day-to-day life. So
smart man.
And it's been great because Foster Web Marketing allowed me to do that, right? You all put me, 100%. I understand that I do have a glorified job and I'm not a business because it's just me. Without me, it doesn't operate. And, none of my kids were interested in sitting on their brains all day and doing what I do, and that's okay. But I keep hoping and praying that there's going to be somebody. For about 10 years, I taught high school mock trial, and I'm hoping that one of those students comes back and says, Mr. Schultz, you got a place that you can, and I'd say, absolutely. Come on in here. I'll show you the ropes, and it'll be like, I'm telling you, it'll be like gold for them. Otherwise, it just dies with me, but it is what it is.
I hear you, buddy. You've truly created this solo practice that is perfect for you, that you've achieved this life balance, right? Which is very cool, and unique that you've been able to do this, that, you've made this decision. And, but at the same time, but I think that will happen, my man. They're going to come, like they'll come back to you and be like, hey, and then maybe you need to scale. Maybe you do it then.
Well, and that's what I'd love to do is just get, have an associate that comes in and I pay them and then give them more and more and more and more. And I take less and less and less. And then it's me riding off into the sunset, I'm 58 years old. I feel like I'm 28. I keep myself in good shape and, all that kind of stuff. And I still am excited every day to help people. And, I've got a great paralegal that loves people, like you can't imagine. Right. And that's very helpful. Right. To have somebody that really does care for folks while I'm sitting there doing the, kind of picking gnats off of a tree, She's
doing the legal work. She's doing she's taking care of them, right? Because
correct.
That's what you have to do. Like when you in these situations, these kinds of clients that you bring in, you really have to take care of them. You really have to, be in their world.
100%. There's a lot of people that, when you get significantly injured, they are, a lot of people out here are really, paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And when they can't work, it can be pretty devastating. I mean, I had a client the other day, man, he's like, look, I'm about to get thrown out in the street with my 2 kids and my wife. And we're just, and part of me was saying, hey, I can't, control what you did, and the decisions you made in the past several years, right? Having no landing pad at all in case you were out of work for a little while. But in the same vein, I mean, I help people get loans that are reasonable, that are favorable, not the loan sharks, or, I get the case resolved pretty quickly and get them the money that they need as quickly as I can, understanding that, a lot of times the quicker you settle, the less money it is, because when you're dealing with insurance companies, it's all about, selling it for as cheap as they can get it, because they really don't care. I mean, that's what I have to understand, people to understand is, look, I've paid, premiums to Allstate, or I paid premiums to State Farm for 20 years and I've never made a claim. And I'm like, they don't care. All they care about is how much they're going to pay on that claim, and that's it. And I always explain to everybody that State Farm's got millions of claims. You have one. You may win, you may lose, but State Farm always gets the average because they create it, or they get it through jury verdicts where they get creamed, or jury verdicts where they get, a defense verdict, right?
Yeah.
And so they have the average, and nothing's going to affect them. Nothing scares them. One time I had an adjuster. This is another one where I had a case where I went down and tried this lawsuit, got a great result. The very next month, I had another case with the same adjuster, the team manager, and I didn't even know that I was even a blip on their radar. But the lawyer had said in her report, hey, if you can settle this case between $40,000 and $50,000, settle it. But otherwise, just go ahead and try it. This is the lawyer's advice to the insurance company, okay? Sometimes they listen to it, sometimes they don't. Well, I said it was a $100,000 policy. I told them that as soon as I send the check to the expert that I was going to take to, for use as evidence at trial for this videotape deposition of this doctor, I said, as soon as I send the check, the $100,000 is off the board. I'm not accepting anything. They offered and they paid $95,000. And the lawyer was like, I am blown away. I told them not to pay you more than $50,000. I don't know why they did it. I had to call them and ask. And the adjuster says, oh, I was sitting in a trial and I was watching him try this case, and you don't want him. And I was like, holy crap. But so that was so long ago. I think that, obviously.
That's great.
Yeah. It was like, wow, because usually you're not a blip on the radar of the insurance company. Nobody is. Not anybody. They're not scared of anybody.
Right.
But one time they actually did get a little scared of me. Once again, that's when I started feeling myself again. I probably went into the courtroom the next week and got a 0,
Yeah, right.
Because that's what you do over 33 years of doing this. You learn that I knew, or at least I thought I knew, I could read people. I could read jurors. I knew who loved me, who didn't like me, who liked my client, who whatever. And first case I ever tried, there's a guy sitting on the front row, and he's just, every time I'm talking, he's nodding. I'm like, this guy loves me. He's going to be the foreperson. We're going to get a great verdict. We did get a verdict, and it was okay. But he was the only one, turns out, he was the only one on the jury that wanted to give my lady nothing. So apparently every time something came out of my mouth, he was going, I don't know what words you're saying. So the more that you do it, the less you know, and that's the safe bet.
That's right.
Right?
That's funny.
As soon as you think you know, and as soon as you think you can read people, because everybody thinks they know how they read people. And if I don't like you, I don't think other people are going to like you. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Everybody, because I tell clients that, I say, one of the reasons when you get when you're deposed, when you have a deposition, they're looking to see whether you're a likable person, right? Whether the jury's going to like you, because that's important. If they don't like you, they're not going to give you money. And so I say half the battle is just being likable.
Right.
So, and there are certain things in your personality that are not extremely likable. And here's one of them, and blah, 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 blah. And I just explain that to them. And I say, for just an hour or 2 hours, be really likable and say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, or whatever, even if you're not accustomed to doing that, because then somebody's going to like you. And then they're going to report back to the insurance company, I think the jury's going to like them because they like them. Does that mean a jury's going to like them? No. But who cares? Most of these cases don't get tried anyway. And you're talking about somebody that's purse strings, they're going, the jury's going to like this person. As opposed to you go in there and the lawyer doesn't like you and thinks you're full of it. They're going to report that to the insurance company, keeps the money down. You're assured to go to trial. The jury may or may not like you. But you know what? You haven't put yourself in the best position to get your case resolved favorably for you. Because guess what? I tell people all the time, it's your case. It ain't my case. And a lot of times insurance companies, offer a amount. I'll tell you a story. I had a guy one time who was a truck driver, and he goes to the Honey Nut Cheerio place down here in Georgia, gets loaded up with Honey Nut Cheerios, and they lock and they seal the back doors. Okay, there's a lock on it, and he drives it all the way up to Ontario, and he gets to the receiver, and he says, "Look, you can open up the back." He says, "Okay." So he goes and he undoes the lock and he opens one door, and everything's fine. He opens up the other door and basically just gets, it was like an avalanche of Honey Nut Cheerios all down there with no milk. And it crushes his leg down into the concrete, ends up having to have a total knee replacement. Then he had to have that revised. And he was older and he was disabled and all this other stuff, and he wasn't going to be able to work anymore. And I told him, I said, "Look, here's the deal. I don't think that they're even willing to play ball unless they get up to at least $750,000. They're on the field ready to play at 750. Okay. So we go to mediation. I think the most they ever offered in the case was maybe $600,000. I'm packing my bags. I'm showing him annuities and how much money he can get, because I had him do a piece of paper, wants and needs, right? Because there's a difference for clients. What's your wants and what's your needs, right? And so he goes down and he does this whole list, and I had him prepared, and I had an annuity specialist that was showing him, if you put this much into an annuity, this is how much you're going to get every month for the rest of your life. That's in the need category. And then there's the want. And then he understood that he was going to be getting Social Security benefits and some other stuff, and he had some retirement, and he kind of knew going in what he needed. I'm so mad at these people. They're only offered $600,000. I'm packing my bag. I get up to leave the mediation, like, "Oh, we're out of here." He grabs my arm. "Jason, I want to take it." He takes the money. I go back to the office. My paralegal at the time, who became a lawyer and tried cases with me for years until she decided to call it quits, she said, "You did what? You settled the case for $600,000? And I said, "Don't start with me." I said, I already feel bad enough. I said, "But guess what? It's not my case. It's his case." And you know what? When they're fully informed and fully advised, they can make good, wise decisions for them. I don't want to make a decision for anybody. God forbid, man, I make wrong decisions all the time, right? You make the decision. I'll give you all of the tools,
All the
for you to
information.
to make a good decision. And that really is my job. It's mostly as a facilitator, just explaining to them kind of what they're up against in a personal injury world, right?
Yeah,
because
nice.
Personal injury is really, I tell people this all the time, and it's kind of scary. I am a true believer in the truth. I want the truth. I want the truth to come out. I want the truth. But the bottom line is, you could be telling the truth all day long, but if you're perceived to be something other than that, whether it's you're perceived to be somebody that doesn't tell the whole truth, or you're perceived to be somebody who might be exaggerating, or you're perceived to be somebody who, it just goes on and on and on, because the perception already is there. We have to do everything that we can to alter the perception and say, we're not like those people.
Right.
We're not like the turn your wreck into a check people. And I can do that, credibly, because I don't have billboards. I don't advertise on TV, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But that is what I consider to be the credibility battle that gets you over the hump to get jurors to look at you differently than what they see out there, on TV, And so what they see is everybody out here is looking for something for nothing. They're looking for a free lunch, and they're all looking for the Perry Mason moment, the aha moment when they discover, oh, Tom, this is a great thing. Okay, I had a client recently. We're going to trial. but he understood because he actually sat as a juror in a case before. And he said the case he was sitting on was a personal injury case. And he said, and the lady said she was a professional square dancer. I don't even know what that is, but a professional square dancer. And she couldn't do that anymore. And she had all this stuff. And she was walking with a cane. And she most of the time walked around kind of gingerly and with a not a great gait. And then, but he saw her a couple times move differently. They were watching her like a hawk, and two of them, him and another juror, are the ones that gave her nothing. They're the ones that started the whole thing in the jury room about, did you see how she moved? Did you see her when she did this? And it was like, that's what they're looking for. And I explained that. I'm like, so he settled his case because he said, I just want as much money as they're going to offer me because I don't want to be in front of 12 strangers and have somebody do what I did to somebody else. Because he didn't realize it until he went through it, what it actually is. And he's like, it's too dangerous.
Sure. Right. Yeah. You don't know what you're going to get. And man, God, there's so many lessons in that. All those stories that you told, truly, like, one, it is the client's case. It's their deal, man. It's up to them. Right. Yeah. And your money, what you make is really up to them. No matter what.
It is. And I'll tell you something too, man. I mean, I have, a fee structure, and I really do want to help people. And I do want people to refer folks to me, right? And so I want everybody to walk away with a taste in their mouth like, you know what? Number one, Jason is not some greedy, personal injury lawyer, all right? All of us have greed, right? We do. You just have to temper it, right? And you have to be able to see beyond the end of your nose when it's a beneficial deal for your client, but you end up structuring your deal a little different on the back end to help them out, to make sure that they're taken care of. Well, guess what that does? Yes, it's a little less money in the short term, but that person is going to be a client for life, and everybody in their sphere of influence is going to say, hey, how'd you like this lawyer? I'm injured or I got hurt, and they're going to go, you got to go to him. Yeah. And my reviews, I mean, I don't have tons of reviews. I have enough, right? I don't know. I mean, in different areas, I probably have in the order of a couple hundred, but I know Google's probably 50 something. And they're all
107. You got 107.
Okay. And they're all pretty good reviews, right?
Yeah, 5-0. All 5-0.
And it's because I really do, and this is really kind of, everybody, I'm going to treat others the way I want to be treated. That's great. That's a great cliche and everything else. But for me, it's true. If I ever promised something to somebody and I didn't come through with that promise, I'm the first person that's going to go, you know what? I promised that to you and I didn't do it. Let me get on that right now. Because the busyness of the day just your stuff kind of fell to the wayside, and I forgot, and I didn't carry through with it. People appreciate that, as opposed to somebody who just makes excuses all day long about, I'll get back to you, or whatever. Sure. And so it's
just your work ethic. It's how you treat people.
Yep. And that's important, because that's what people are going to remember too, right?
Yep, exactly.
They honestly, they really don't care about how you did for them, but did you care, right? I mean, how did you make them feel? Did they feel like they were cared for? And sometimes
because you become a big part of their life, for a period of time, for a long period of time. You're a very important part of their life. And
and for years, for years through you all and the great legal marketing stuff, I sent out a newsletter. Now I just do it like 6 times a year. It's a hard newsletter. And then I'll do the stuff through we have an email thing through y'all, that sends emails, the newsletters out. But, for years I just used, kind of funny, I just kind of prostituted my children, if you will. and they were so cute, you know. And one of the ones that I'll never forget, I had all my kids standing in front of our house, and there's some pretty flowers or whatever, and they all had like little thought bubbles, you know, or whatever, and they were saying stuff, and they're like, "Thanks for referring a case to my dad. It keeps him busy, and he doesn't bug us about homework." and, you know, and that was the kind of, you know, that was the
That's
kind
great.
of the springboard, you know, because people thought that was cute, and they had cute kids, and so then they watched my kids grow, and then they would do things like, you know, they'd have some athletic success or academic success, and I might mention something about them, just, you know, in my little pictorial kind of thing, you know, and they all literally felt like they were part of my family for over 20 years. How are your kids doing? You know, and I barely remember the person's name because it's been 20 years, but they're getting the newsletter and they're looking at it, you know, and they're like, they become, so it's, and those were all ideas that you guys, you know, in the marketing.
Yeah, but you implemented them. Like you took action and did them, and look, you know, and that's made you the success that you are now.
Right. And I'm a little bit of an anomaly for your clients. Maybe I'm not, you know, I'm probably a little too, you know, satisfied, you know, like I don't need the entire world. I just need my little chunk.
I know you're a happy client. That's our favorite kind. Well, Jason, it's been wonderful talking to you today, and wow, so much lessons in your stories for everybody and for me too. Thank you so much for sharing those things.
Well, thank you all for being great too, because you've got a great team there at Foster Webb, and you guys have been great to me for so many years, man.
Yeah,
I think it's probably 17 years.
I know we've been together for a long time, and I appreciate that. Jason.
And super thankful. And you know, you use this in your marketing however you want, but you know, if you're out there and you want to change the trajectory of your life and your law practice, then Foster Webb Marketing is the place to go. And they will give you as little or as much as you can do and put on your plate, because most of the time they're making suggestions to me, and I'm like, that's a great suggestion, but I'm good. I'm good.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that, buddy. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon.